As American citizens, we are constantly reminded that we live in the land of the free, and freedom is something we must advocate for and protect. For a country that claims to be the land of free and equal opportunity, many inequalities have existed. From women fighting for suffrage in the 20s, the civil rights movement in the 60s, and a plethora of other issues, the assertion that America is a progressive country can seem a bit deceitful. Regardless, the United States is still an asylum to many. She is a beacon of hope for those who have been mistreated and neglected by their native countries. Immigrants from all over the world have come to America to escape religious and political persecution, along with dreams for a better, more fulfilling life. Sadly, this hasn't applied for everyone. For those who practice Islam, American life is not always so pleasant. In the past few decades, Muslims have been heavily criticized and persecuted for their beliefs. This has brought forward a critical issue: the existence of Islamophobia in the United States. The prevalence of Islamophobia amplified after the September 11, 2001 terror attacks. The attacks were led by 3 Islamic extremists and killed almost 3,000 Americans. It is remembered as one of the most tragic and disastrous events in United States history. In the wake of the attacks, the American federal government scrambled to create legislation that would prevent something like the 9/11 attacks from happening ever again. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security was created, along with the USA Patriot Act, which granted the government permission to spy on whomever they believed to be a threat of terror. After the formation of these policies, the United States government and the media began to marginalize Islam and its followers. Muslim Americans developed a stigma that punished them for crimes that only a select few members of their population committed. Incidents of verbal harassment and discrimination began to rise. It is rare for Muslim Americans to go through airport security and not receive additional screening. Islamophobia, which is the exaggerated fear, hatred, and hostility toward Islam and Muslims, has caused profiling, discrimination, and bigotry throughout American society. Hate crimes against Muslims continue as paranoid Americans spy on their neighbors if they believe their traits to be suspicious or threatening. Communities have refused to build religious and cultural accommodations for its Muslim citizens, and sponsored advertisements offering Muslims a, quote, safe way to give up Islam have been created. Muslim Americans have essentially been stripped of any respect of their culture and beliefs, and forced to conform to Western culture in order to avoid being alienated and criminalized in America. The unfortunate reality is that most Americans are misinformed. Many are unaware what the basic principles of Islam entail, and immediately associate the religion with terrorism. Studies have shown that almost half of Americans believe that since most terror attacks are conducted in the name of their faith, Islam represents violence, and because of 9/11, many Americans feel they have an excuse to be discriminatory of Muslims. In the midterm election this past year, 2 of the first Muslim American women, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, were elected to Congress. Before them, only 2 other Muslims had secured seats in the House of Representatives. Even as a minority, one may see this as a testament that the face of the nation is progressing. Unfortunately, Islamophobia continues to persist. More recently, Muslim Americans face their latest tribulation: living in Donald Trump's America. President Trump's campaign was based on fear-mongering and deeper aggravated the fear and hatred of Muslims in the United States. This can be credited to his travel ban of foreign nationals from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, along with his enduring anti-Islamic rhetoric. Trump continues to instill paranoia and bigotry into the minds of Americans. Even if he isn't outright condemning their presence, his politics do nothing to encourage the acceptance and equality that the United States is supposed to represent. As leader of the free world, Trump is obligated to represent the principles that the nation was founded on and continues to fail to do so. Luckily, since their election, Congresswomen Tlaib and Omar have set out to battle President Trump's anti-Islamic hate speech. They have become advocates for the Muslim American population and seek to improve the public image of Muslims and how they are perceived by their fellow Americans. Congresswoman Omar has stated that she believes her election offers a counter-narrative to the bigotry in the world. As 2 of the first Muslim American women represented in Congress, their achievements are nothing short of momentous and exciting. Often the contributions that Muslim Americans make to the country are overlooked. They have been forced to grapple with the repercussions of 9/11 instead of being embraced and celebrated for their improvements they have made to society. Even now, in 2019, some 17 years after the September 11th attacks, Islamophobia continues to isolate Muslims. Young Muslim American girls are bullied in school, their hijabs ripped from their heads, evidence that bigotry has been passed on to the succeeding generation. Clearly, Islamophobia has begun to prove itself as an issue deep-rooted and irreversible. The United States was founded on the desire to escape religious persecution, but unfortunately for Muslims, it has become the opposite. American society continuously condemns those who openly practice Islam, the government doing little to protect their culture and beliefs. As attitudes towards Islam worsen, Americans must call upon their individual ethics and moralities. Even if Islam is believed to clash with Western ideals, it is one's duty as an American citizen to grant the equal opportunity of a fellow citizen to practice their religion and worship as they wish. Until the majority of Americans can exercise this responsibility, the face of the nation will remain riddled with the hatred and viciousness of Islamophobia.